entering the bachelor's degree candidates from the GWC Whiting School of Engineering. Now entering are the candidates for artist diplomas and doctoral degrees in the following order: the School of Education, the Peabody Conservatory, the School of Nursing, the Bloomberg School of Public Health, the Paul H. Nitze School of Advanced International Studies, the School of Medicine, the GWC Whiting School of Engineering, and the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences. Now entering are the master's, certificates, performance certificates, and bachelor's candidates from the Carey Business School, the School of Education, the Peabody Conservatory, the School of Nursing, the Bloomberg School of Public Health, the Paul H. Nitze School of Advanced International Studies, the School of Medicine, the GWC Whiting School of Engineering, and the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences. Please welcome the faculty members of the Johns Hopkins University. Now entering the Johns Hopkins University Vice Presidents, Officials, and Trustees. Please stand for the procession of the Presidential Party, led by Chief Marshal Sunil Kumar. The Chief Marshal is followed by the University Deans, honorary degree recipients, Board of Trustees Chair Jeffrey Aronson, and President Ronald Daniels.
The ceremony will now come to order. Good afternoon. I'm Sunil Kumar, Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. I'm honored to serve as Chief Marshal for the 2017 Johns Hopkins University Commencement Ceremony. University Chaplain Kathy Schnur will offer the invocation. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the national anthem sung by Peabody Masters candidate Simone Brown.
My sisters and brothers, let us pray. Source of truth for all generations, we are so very thankful this day has arrived, and our hearts are filled with joy and energy by the possibilities that lie ahead as we celebrate the Johns Hopkins University class of 2017. Gentle Spirit, we are profoundly and humbly aware that our accomplishments come as the result of not only countless hours in libraries, practice rooms, and labs, but also as the result of the encouragement and support of our mentors, our instructors, our coaches, our friends, and many others we have met along the way. The engagement of eternal and intricate questions and the courage to change course as discoveries led to surprising and new pursuits is a shared achievement. We are particularly grateful for the sacrifices, dedication, and love of our parents and families, those who are here today for this auspicious event, and those who are celebrating from afar. Today, we also remember those whom we hold dear who are no longer with us, especially Yang Kai Lee, whose life ended tragically too soon. We deeply miss them, and they will always be carried in our hearts. Generous God, yours is the power that illuminates and choreographs the galaxies, and you are the architect of every cell. We are awed by the splendor of your creation and this beautiful mosaic of humanity. May our actions always be for something compassionate and good. And may we remember that the world is too dangerous for anything but truth, and too small for anything but love. As we leave this place, guide our feet, that we may find the cadence of shalom. Guide our breathing, that we may feel the pulse of salam. Guide our minds, that we may learn the tempo of shanti. And guide our hearts, that they may come to beat the rhythm of peace. Together we say, Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad shadow
Please be seated. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jeffrey Aronson, Chair of the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Sunil. Honored guests, my colleagues on the Board of Trustees, and the faculty, and most importantly, to our graduates, I wish you all good afternoon. This is a great day for you and a great day for us, because from this day forward, you will be identified as graduates of the Johns Hopkins University. Your association with Johns Hopkins will serve you well for the rest of your life, more so perhaps than you may recognize today. And on behalf of my fellow trustees, I extend our congratulations on a job well done and best wishes in your life to come. In our country, higher education is, and always has been, advanced through the gifts, enthusiasm, and passion of its alumni. We look forward to your loyalty and support for our great university, whose future, in a very real sense, is truly in your hands now. For our part, we pledge to do everything in our power to make sure Johns Hopkins remains a leader in higher education and a university of which you will always be proud. At this time, I am truly delighted to carry on a great Johns Hopkins tradition. I'd like to ask the mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, and partners of the candidates for degrees, please rise and remain standing. Today, all of our attention is directed to your daughters and sons, your wives and your husbands, and your partners who are soon to receive their degrees. However, your appreciation of the great value of a Johns Hopkins education, your understanding of the need to sometimes make difficult sacrifices in pursuit of that goal, and the unconditional support you have shown all along the way is in no smart part responsible for their tremendous achievement today. We, the trustees, faculties, students, and administration of the Johns Hopkins University, salute and honor you. Thank you. Please be seated. And again, congratulations to all of our graduates on this very special day.
Thank you, Mr. Aronson. And now I'm pleased to introduce Mr. David Yaffe, a 1974 graduate of the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences, a member of the University Board of Trustees, and president of the Johns Hopkins Alumni Association.
Good afternoon, graduates. As you think of your life after Hopkins as an alum, know that Johns Hopkins University will always be your university. And as president of your Alumni Association, it is my great pleasure and indeed my honor to welcome you, the class of 2017, to the Johns Hopkins alumni family. By the end of this week, more than 212,000 members will make up the worldwide network of Hopkins alumni. This is an accomplished and diverse group representing virtually every imaginable walk of life. So as you head to your next venture, you will surely find common interests with other graduates from all of Hopkins' 9 academic divisions. And the Johns Hopkins Alumni Association provides opportunities for you to network and share experiences with these other Blue Jays. Through its regional chapters in various cities at home in the United States and abroad, its more than 30 affinity group that reflects interest ranging from food to finance and from entrepreneurship to healthcare, as well as a host of other alumni events. So take advantage of everything your alumni association has to offer by staying connected to us online. In addition, I ask that you look out for each other, open doors for each other, and help each other become successful as you carry Hopkins' values of discovery and service into the world. Congratulations, and I hope our paths will cross again soon, and remember that you will always be a Johns Hopkins Blue Jay.
Thank you, Mr. Yaffe. Today's commencement ceremony marks the close of the 141st academic year at Johns Hopkins University. In that time, 14 presidents have led the university, beginning with President Daniel Coit Gilman, who originated the research mission of the university and hired the first faculty. Our current president, Ronald J. Daniels, assumed office on March 2nd, 2009. Per tradition, he will now address the candidates for degrees.
Good afternoon to our honorary degree recipients, alumni, and trustees, to our faculty and staff, including one of our newest faculty members, Senator Barbara Mikulski. It's great to see you, Senator. To our parents, family members, and friends, and most especially to our graduates, welcome to the Johns Hopkins University Commencement for the great class of 2017. So, welcome to the Royal Farms Arena. Some think we have commencement here inside because of the inclement weather. But no, we actually want to reassure you that there is life after the FFC. You will still be able to get chicken tenders at all hours at Royal Farms. And for that, I got a significant reduction in the rent we're paying for the arena this year. I'm always working for you. Now, we know at Hopkins it can be disconcerting to think about what's next. A world without 24/7 access to Unimini mozzarella sticks. A world where some junior will now be sleeping in your spot at Brody. A world in which Miss Gladys has retired after nearly 5 decades of keeping our students happy. Thank you, Miss Gladys. Facing what's next is, of course, inevitable. As this moment approached for each of you, I found myself thinking about my own first post-college adventure. It was back in the Paleolithic era, the early 1980s. And I was a newly minted graduate of the University of Toronto with a degree in economics and political science. I had landed my first serious job as a research assistant for a blue ribbon governmental commission that was formed to address matters of health and safety arising from the use of asbestos in Ontario. Now, asbestos, as many of you know, is a mined material used for many decades as a fire retardant and as an insulant. But as had also been well known for decades, the mining and manufacturing of asbestos into a variety of products was enormously, enormously dangerous to the workers exposed to it. Workers who did and who would suffer devastatingly high levels of disease and early death. It is one of nature's most potent carcinogens. The commission was established in the wake of several high-profile and wrenching stories, including that of a Johns Manville manufacturing plant in a suburb of Toronto, Scarborough, Ontario, that at its peak had employed more than 700 workers, almost 10% of whom by 1984 had died from an asbestos-related disease. And indeed, many more have succumbed since to asbestos-related disease. In the searing assessment of the commission in its final report, they said the plant was, by any measure, a world-class occupational health and safety disaster. Now, this may not have been everyone's dream job, but it was mine. It combined everything I was passionate about: the intersection of market economics and the public good, health and well-being of people, sound public policy making, and the imperative of evidence-based decision-making. And of course, at the core of it were the data, lots and lots and lots of data. And I had to mine those data to discern patterns, analyze impacts, and shape arguments. It's possible that I would talk about those data with anyone who would listen, including the woman I had just started dating. In retrospect, I can see that exhaustive conversations about the effect of asbestos on individuals and markets may not have been the best first or even second best date conversation, but fortunately, she married me, and I'm grateful she's still listening. But back to the story. My main assignment in this first job was to create a technical document that captured all the bits of data we had. For the hundreds of cases we were analyzing, I coded everything: the date the illness occurred, the duration and intensity of exposure. And in the end, we produced a comprehensive database that provided the foundation for a large-scale risk analysis that would, in turn, the Commission's final policy recommendations. And this database was, in my humble opinion, and in geek world, a work of art. Hopkins students, I know you get what I am saying when I refer to this. But then, art met life. I vividly remember the moment it happened. I was staffing the commission at one of its public hearings, and the first witness that day was the widow from the Johns Manville Scarborough plant whose husband had suffered a long and painful asbestos-related death. Her name was Odette Dawes. She sat down at the table to begin her testimony, and next to her, she placed a small box. She told us in the box that her husband's remains were contained. In an instant, all those intricate risk analyses, all that I had meticulously researched, coded and artfully presented in database form, narrowed to a single point. The N of many became an N of one. It was in that moment that I opened myself up to the truth that each data point I had coded was in fact someone's husband, father, son. He was a neighbor, a coworker, a best friend. Suddenly, I saw that the data that I'd been working on for many months had obscured the story of searing loss, callous betrayal, and failed laws and legal institutions that defined the tragedy of asbestos exposure in my province. To put it plainly, I came to understand that data needed to be grounded in the unique circumstances, the human drama, the joy and pain of each single life lived. And maybe you know where this is leading. You, the class of 2017, are graduating at a moment when our capacity to harness vast troves of data is unprecedented, incredibly exciting in its own right, and being put to extraordinary use. Scientists can effortlessly analyze Google Trends to track the movement of pandemics in order to get ahead of them. Cities like Los Angeles are using smart technologies to track water usage as they fight some of the worst droughts in recorded history. And Johns Hopkins and other medical institutions are able to use immense data sets to predict which genetic mutations increase the risks of cancer and other diseases. As an institution that believes in data-driven research, we herald these data-driven achievements. But we also know that we can never lose sight of the individual people who are the source of the data and the concentric circles of family, friends, and community that surround them. The Vice Dean for Education at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, and incidentally, the father of one of your classmates today, Dr. Roy Ziegelstein, summed it up so well in a recent article he wrote in the Journal of the American Medical Association. He said, as ever more precise fields like proteomics, genomics, and epigenomics can be used to identify treatments that are uniquely tailored to the individual, the possibilities are almost unimaginable. But when taken by themselves, something profound is missing. We also need, Roy argued, personomics, the study of the unique circumstances of the person at the heart of the data story. Or put another way, by one of the founding 4 physicians of the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, Dr. William Osler, it is much more important to know what sort of a patient has a disease than what sort of a disease a patient has. Now, neither Roy nor I would argue that your focus should narrow to a single person, nor should you reject the power of troves of data to revolutionize and optimize our ability to discover, to comprehend, and to heal. Rather, the lesson I learned in my first job after college is this: to paint the fullest picture of any circumstance, you must find a way to do both. Take the expansive view and look at things up close. Understand the collective evidence and never lose sight of the incredible richness and complexity of the human story. Now, your commencement speaker, Frank Bruni, excels at this. In his nearly 30 years as an acclaimed writer and journalist, Frank has taken on some of the most challenging issues imaginable, from the polarization of our body politic, to the right to access a university education, to the slow but steady movement towards full equality for LGBTQ people. His reporting and analysis are informed by and awash in facts and data. In prose, both elegant and nuanced, he points us to trends that explain the scope of the issue at hand, but then unfailingly, and often through his own deeply honest and personal stories, Frank provides a window into the individual humanity that connects all of us. So, graduates of the class of 2017, I know, indeed we all know, that you are an exceptionally talented, courageous, and resilient group of individuals. As you prepare to leave us today and head off to your next challenge, your first job, the next step in your education, or an exploration of the far-flung corners of the world, I hope that you will embrace this world in its vastness and in its particularity. May all that you have learned here aid you as you guide us to a better understanding of our universe, so that we may in turn better serve the people within it. And never, never be afraid to follow or talk about your passions. You never know to where or to whom they will lead you. Class of 2017, you make us very, very proud. Godspeed to you all. I now have the great privilege of presenting the individuals who will in just a moment be recognized for peerless accomplishments to their field, the distinguished honorary degree recipients of 2017. One of our honorary graduates, pioneering NASA mathematician Katherine Johnson, received her degree last month at a special ceremony at her home in Virginia. She could not be here today, in person today, but we are delighted to mark this occasion with her daughter, Joylette Heilich, and her grandson, Troy Heilich, who are here. And Joylette is, please stand. With that, let's meet the distinguished honorary degree recipients of 2017.
Today, we are proud to honor 6 men and women. Their work and dedication have changed our world for the better.
Best-selling author, journalist, and this year's commencement speaker, Frank Bruni. He's a critically acclaimed op-ed columnist for one of the world's most respected newspapers. He's written 3 New York Times best-selling books.
I just hope in whatever small way I can, I'm getting people to think about matters of the common good and about what's true for all of us, not just necessarily what's good for some of us.
Frank Bruni's work shines a light on facts and embodies our own Johns Hopkins motto, "The truth shall set you free."
Mathematician and space pioneer Katherine Johnson.
An American hero, Katherine Johnson.
The world knows Katherine Johnson for her mastery of math. Her complex calculations help launch America into space, a giant leap in the era of segregation.
I was always around people who were learning something. You learn if you want to, so you've got to want to learn.
America's 14th Librarian of Congress, CARLA HAYDEN. She's the first woman and first African American to stand watch over the world's largest library. CARLA HAYDEN has devoted her career to bringing public libraries into the digital age.
Today, all of us are inundated with information overload, and I am working to make sure that we present information as accurately and authoritatively as we can.
Scholar, educator, and president of the University of Pennsylvania, Amy Gutmann. She's one of the nation's most respected university leaders. Amy Gutmann places a premium on education's role in our democracy. She's worked tirelessly to make higher education and healthcare accessible for everyone.
I fervently hope that the work I do can open doors to more affordable, high-quality education and healthcare for everybody.
Nobel Prize-winning researcher Harold Varmus.
I've been privileged to be part of remarkable increases in our understanding of how cancer arises.
He is a leader in the fight against cancer and the former director of the National Institutes of Health. In 1989, he and a colleague won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. He has been a staunch advocate for young investigators.
I strongly believe in the idea that we can further improve the human condition, and I'm dedicated to that.
Entrepreneur, alumnus, and Blue Jay booster, Ralph O'Connor. He's a proud member of the Hopkins class of 1951. You recognize his name from the rec center that's become a centerpiece of Homewood campus life.
On that shelf, all Blue Jays.
Over the past 5 decades, he's also given us the gift of public art, plus professorships, scholarships, and support that encourage entrepreneurship and innovation.
Be happy, give back, keep learning, keep thinking, and have some fun, but be true to yourself is the main thing I think you should be.
We salute you all and thank you for showing us how determination, leadership, and dedication to others make the world a better place.
The university will now recognize these extraordinary contributions with honorary doctorates. Candidates for honorary degrees will now be conferred. Beverly Wendland, the James B. Knapp Dean of the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences, will begin today's presentation of candidates for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. Will Frank Bruni please step forward?
Keep going. Keep going, Snoop. He's a new provost. It'll work out.
Yeah. I think this year, sorry, I missed it. Dr. Wali Nasser, Dean of the Paul H. Nietzsche School of Advanced International Studies, will present the next candidate for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. Will Amy Gutmann please come forward? Winston Tabb, the Sheridan Dean of University Libraries and Museums, will present the next candidate for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. Will CARLA HAYDEN please come forward? Dr. Schleisinger, the Benjamin T. Rome Dean of the Whiting School of Engineering, will present the next candidate for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. Will Andrew and Ralph Abenshine, representing Ralph O'Connor, please come forward?
Here, just Provost, before you continue, I'm just going to ask everyone here to help me out with a very special favor. We were really hoping that Ralph O'Connor would be here with us today, but unfortunately he had a bit of a health setback and couldn't join us. He's in Houston, Texas right now watching this live stream. We're going to do another ceremony for him in the very near future, but I'm wondering if you could help me out. in the following manner, and that is, on the count of 3, would you mind all just saying hello to Ralph? So just, hi, Ralph. 1, 2, 3. Hi, Ralph. Thank you.
Dr.
Ralph, we miss you and look forward to seeing you really soon.
Dr. Paul Rothman, the Francis Ward Baker and Lennox D. Baker Dean of the Medical Faculty, will present the next candidate for the degree Doctor of Humane Letters. Will Harold Warmus please step forward?
Frank Bruni, Amy Gutman, Carla Hayden, Ralph O'Connor, and Harold Warmus, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon you the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, together with all the honors, rights, and privileges appertaining thereto. And I'm going to present you in a moment with the diploma indicating this honor has been conferred. And I ask the deans will now vest you with the ensign of the degree. Please join me in congratulating all of our honorary degree recipients. Please be seated.
Syed Hossain, President of the Class of 2017, will now present greetings.
Thank you, Provost Kumar. I will do that, but first, let me take a selfie. Hello, everyone, on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon. It's the middle of the work week, which is probably not the most convenient day to be here with school, work, etc. But research shows that Wednesday is the best day to post on social media to get the most amount of likes. So I hope that makes up for any inconvenience. I look around and I see so many people who helped us along the way. Professors, advisors, friends, siblings, and parents. Today would not have been a celebration without you. Because of your benevolence, support, and compassion, the class of 2017 in front of you is graduating from one of the finest institutions in this world. So on behalf of myself and all my classmates, thank you. For us students, the past 4 years have been filled with experiences we could not have anticipated when we came here as freshmen. We faced challenges, some as trivial as choosing who to eat lunch with the first week of freshman year, others as profound as finally committing to a major. But those challenges also presented us some of our greatest opportunities, unexpected and exciting opportunities that took us in directions we otherwise would have never considered. Looking back, we realize how extraordinary a place Johns Hopkins is. Our experiences here have helped us break with the past and prepare for the future. They changed us. They turned us into something else, a good something else. Before we came to Homewood campus, most of us couldn't quite imagine what it would be like. The classes we'd take, the extracurriculars we'd get involved in, and the friends we'd make. And we were uncertain as to how it would all turn out. But we took risks, went out of our comfort zones, pushed our limits, and jumped into things. And we didn't let that fear of the unknown hold us back. We embraced it with courage. When we walk out of this arena into the next chapter of our lives, many of us will find ourselves again in that exact situation, uncertain of what the future holds, asking ourselves, now what? Because the real world isn't as structured as the college environment we're all now so used to. Out there, as recent graduates, we won't always have the spotlight shining on that next step. We won't always know what's coming. But Johns Hopkins has taught us that there's a beauty in uncertainty. And I know that each and every one of you is so well prepared to embrace whatever challenges and opportunities the future brings with courage. Thank you and congratulations. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce this year's commencement speaker, acclaimed award-winning journalist, Frank Bruni. A 22-year veteran of the New York Times, he has made an impact on readers around the world through his work as a White House correspondent, restaurant critic, and columnist. As an opinion writer, he tackles complex issues in higher education and politics with his signature blend of depth, sensitivity, and wit, both providing insight and encouraging debate on some of the most important topics of our times. Also a best-selling author, he has written books on everything from George W. Bush to meatloaf. We are truly proud to have him here, and I know that just as his words inspire and challenge readers daily, they will also inspire and challenge us today. Please join me in warmly welcoming this year's commencement speaker, Frank Bruni.
Thank you, Saeed, for that lovely introduction. I hope you'll forgive me, but I just have to correct one tiny thing. You said I write for the New York Times. I write for the failing New York Times. I just want to be accurate, and in the interest of complete accuracy, I'm not an op-ed columnist, but according to a certain person who met with the Pope today, and I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall there, I'm an enemy of the American people, me and my colleagues. So thank you for having me here. But I'm a friend to the trustees, faculty, and students here at Johns Hopkins, and I want to congratulate the class of 2017. And thank you all for letting me share this day with you. When President Daniels asked me, I was thrilled, and that's not just because Johns Hopkins is one of the world's truly great universities. And it's not just because commencement, which is so aptly named, is an exhilarating juncture when we all stand together at the gateway of tomorrow and celebrate the promise of what's ahead. I was thrilled for a personal reason, too. The eldest of my many nieces and nephews, Leslie, happens to be a student here, now between her junior and senior years. I held her when she was only days old. I read stories to her during her first months when she had no idea what I or anyone else around her was saying. And in those first years, I showed her the ocean. I think I may have even been the one who introduced her to it during a family vacation in South Carolina. I remember her reaction, which reflected her mother's efforts to teach her some Spanish, including the word for water. Gazing at the dark blue infinity of the Atlantic, she said, "So many aguas in there." I share that not to embarrass her, and not to be sappy, although as you'll see, I'm a total sap. I share it because it underscores the part of life that's too easily forgotten in a world swirling with ambition and in a milieu as accomplished as yours. The part that will have more to do with your happiness than any job you snag or any ladder you climb. That part is the quality of your interactions with the people around you, especially the ones closest to you. The amount of time you give them, the fierceness of your commitment to them. Your families will be the most consequential forces in your existences. And when I say families, I don't mean only the ones you inherited. I'm not speaking narrowly, mother, father, sister, brother. I'm including the families you create, your friends, your neighbors, your mentors, your mentees. Nothing will propel, cushion, and exalt your journey through this crazy world, like the band of loved ones you gather around you. I got very, very lucky. I had this loud 4-foot, 10-inch Italian grandmother who was a font not only of love and lasagna, but of homespun wisdom, which she distilled into her favorite maxims. I'll repeat a few because they're durable pieces of advice. On the subject of daring, she always said, "Take a chance. Columbus did." On the subject of dating, she said, "Don't stop at the first church." And on the subject of change, she said, "Born round, you don't die square." She didn't mean that as an excuse for resigning yourself to the way things were. She was recommending a grown-up, realistic acceptance of those circumstances that are truly beyond alteration. I have 3 wonderful siblings, including an older brother, Mark, who is so close to me in age and in spirit that I barely talked as a toddler. He did all of my communicating for me. According to my mother, I would squirm, mule, bawl, or indicate my displeasure in some comparably articulate way. And before she could press me on what I wanted and perhaps coax actual language from me, Mark would rush in to solve the riddle. He wants his blanket. He wants his book. He wants another cookie. That last translation was less a guess than a certainty. Born round, I always wanted another cookie. A few years back, when I used my op-ed column to write about my relationship with Mark and with my 2 younger siblings, something interesting happened. That column was more clicked on, more read, than anything else I've written in 6 years as a columnist. Nothing about higher education, or gay rights, or even Donald Trump mattered as much to readers. And that's because none of those subjects burrows as deeply into the soul as family does. Over 3 decades in journalism, I've had the privilege to interview hundreds of this country's most extraordinary people. And I've occasionally pulled back and asked myself, what do they teach us about a life well lived? I've noticed that the highest achievers aren't just driven, they're doing jobs so aligned with their passions that they have energy and inspiration to burn. Keep that in mind as you set your courses. But the dividing line between the achievers who are merely distinguished and those who are actually content is the richness of their lives outside of any office and away from any stage. That's the realm in which they found the laughter and the love that bring true fulfillment. It's a realm that winds up having enormous effect on public life. The kind of courtesy that is exiting our political discourse and all too often our college campuses is honed in our private interactions. Our families are the laboratories in which we nurture such strangely endangered values as compromise and mutual respect. My own extended brood includes acolytes of Sean Hannity and worshipers in the Church of Mad Al, people who voted enthusiastically for Hillary Clinton, and people who voted even more enthusiastically for Trump. And we got through our Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter meals without a single brawl, though in full disclosure, we went through about twice the usual volume of alcohol. If I've been an even marginally effective advocate for LGBTQ rights over the years, it's because I first figured out how to make the case and how to make progress in my own family. That's true for many gay people. By illuminating our families, we illuminated the world, which is nothing more and nothing less than all of our families put together. This isn't a day for political opining, but I will say this because it's true for everyone here, regardless of party affiliation or ideological inclination. 2 years ago, none of us imagined the political landscape that we're traversing now. All of us have received a powerful reminder of how unpredictable life is, how full of unforeseeable twists and turns. When my own commencement in Chapel Hill, North Carolina happened 31 years ago, Germany was 2 countries, East and West, and a daunting wall ran through Berlin. We didn't speak of Russia, we spoke of the much larger and more fearsome Soviet Union. Music streaming services didn't exist. Pandora referred only to an ancient Greek lady who was really careless with her box. We just had the good old-fashioned radio, and the most inescapable song on it, the #1 hit of that year, was titled "That's What Friends Are For," and was inspired by something called the AIDS epidemic, which was a defining specter of my young adulthood and seemed to be raging out of control. Since then, so much progress, so many problems too. Change is constant, and the pace of it seems to accelerate all the time. The metabolism of the news these days is insane. To step away from the computer screen or put down your smartphone for 15 minutes is to fall a dozen stories behind. And many of those stories school us in the fact that while we have some influence over our government and our leaders, that's a far, far cry from control. What we do determine completely is the way we treat the people in our lives. And in my experience, that also has immeasurably greater bearing on how we feel at the close of each day and at the curtain of each year. Within most of us, there's a conscience that's only at peace when we've behaved honorably and compassionately. Maybe that's the whisper of God. Maybe it's the imprint of evolution, and natural selection favors those in our species with a capacity for caring, and thus for inhabiting large and intricate communities. I don't know. But I'm sure of this: the tightest knots in my stomach come from the realization that I've been unkind, and the highest swells of my spirit come from the conviction that I've been tender and true. My career in journalism has now been long enough that I'm sometimes the interviewee instead of the interviewer, and maybe because I've written extensively about food and restaurants, a question I repeatedly field is this: what would you want your last supper to be? In each case, my questioner is clearly teeing me up to mention a given menu. But in each case, excuse me, all I can think about is the guest list and about how many cherished friends and relatives might fit at the table. More than once, I've also fielded this question too: which 3 people, living or dead, would you most want to have dinner with? Again, my instinctive response diverges from expectation. I don't want Abraham Lincoln. I don't want Beyonce. I want Grandma Bruni, and that's with or without her lasagna. Both before you arrived at Johns Hopkins and during your time here, you cultivated relationships that are the very foundation of who you are. You'll cultivate more after you leave. Don't take them for granted. Never let them fall into neglect. The years ahead will be magical and messy, full of the very rewards that you set your sights on and of setbacks you never imagined. So many aguas in there. But there's only one smart way to sail across the ocean of your future, and that's in the clutch of people you love. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Bruni. The deans will now present doctoral candidates to receive their degrees. We ask that the candidates come forward without delay. First, Interim Dean Hardeman will present the doctoral candidates from the School of Education.
Go ahead. How are you? Mr. President, I am pleased to present to you candidates dedicated to enhancing the lives of children, youth, and communities. They have been certified by the faculty of the School of Education for their degree of Doctor of Education.
Thank you, Dean. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and every one of you and candidates unable to be present the degree Doctor of Education from the School of Education, from which you have been certified by the faculty together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. And let me just say warmest congratulations. You're going to hear these words a lot over the next little while. And I would just ask, before we confer our degrees, I want to make just a brief point about commencement. Commencement is a moment at Johns Hopkins when we, of course, celebrate the individual and the individual achievement, but we also celebrate the community. Now, we're all here in about 5 seconds or so, the very first person in line, Andrew Cockley, a candidate. Andrew, can you wave? Andrew is here, our first. He's a candidate for Doctor in Education, but am I thinking about, as you all are, with great expectation about Andrew, I'm thinking about Nicola Willoughby, the last of our bachelor candidates here today. And Nicola, where are you? You're going to be on the screen in a minute. Look back at Nicola. So we're all here for Andrew, kind of individual and community. My hope is that we'll all be here for Nicola. She has had a very challenging time in her life, always being the W's, the end of the line, and so on. We're going to make it special for you. We're going to be here for you today. So with that, Andrew, it'd be great to confer your degree.
For the Doctor of Education,
Andrew Cockley.
Kafui Ya Do.
Katrina Mauricia Foster. Catherine Cruckton.
Aaron Noel Paradis. Jimmy Lynn Walker. For the Doctor of Musical Arts, Theodore Stubbs Davis. For the Doctor of Nursing Practice, Bethlehem Abate.
Dean Davidson will present the doctoral candidates from the School of Nursing.
President Daniels, I'm pleased and proud to present to you nurses from the School of Nursing who are part of the most trusted profession in the country and are the glue that keeps the health system together. They have been certified by the faculty of the School of Nursing for their degrees of Doctor of Nursing Practice and Doctor of Philosophy.
Thank you, Dean. I'm surprised that lawyers fell off the list at the top for the most trusted profession, but I'll take it that you've got data to buttress that somewhat aggressive claim. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and every one of you and candidates unable to be present the degrees Doctor of Nursing Practice, Doctor of Philosophy from the School of Nursing, for which you've been certified by the faculty, together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Amita Desai.
Susan Renee Giscombe.
Michelle Song Henry.
Emily Noel Herbert.
Melissa Diane Hunter.
Nicole Marie Kelly.
Benara Yu.
Dean Clagg will now present the doctoral candidates from the Bloomberg School of Public Health.
Mr. President, after 12 years as Dean of the Bloomberg School of Public Health, I am proud to present to you candidates who are as able as any we've ever graduated to protect health and save lives around the world. They have been certified by the faculty of the Bloomberg School of Public Health for their degrees of Public Health, a Doctor of Public Health and Doctor of Philosophy.
Thank you, Dean Clagg. And let's, before I call the graduates up, let's give a hand to Dean Michael Clagg for an extraordinary run of leadership of our great School of Public Health. And by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and every one of you and candidates unable to be present the degrees Doctor of Public Health and Doctors of Philosophy from the Bloomberg School of Public Health, for which you have been certified by the faculty, together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Warmest congratulations.
For the Doctor of Philosophy,
Martha A. Abshire.
Jocelyn Christine Anderson,
Maan Isabella Cajita.
Paula Virginia Nersian,
Chinliang Liu.
Jala Assad Tahir. For the Doctor of Philosophy,
Usama Bilal.
Miriam Fofana, Jong Kim, Doris Leung, Pai Sin Lin, Yi Lu, Michelle Wang, Yu Ting Xu, Goro Yamada,
Dean Nasser will present the doctoral candidates from the Paul H. Nietzsche School of Advanced International Studies.
Mr. President, the candidates whose names are listed in the program and who have been certified by the faculty of the Paul H. Nietzsche School of Advanced International Studies for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy cannot be here with us today. I ask you to confer the degree in absentia.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon the candidates unable to be present the degree of Doctor of Philosophy from the Paul H. Nietzsche School of Advanced International Studies, for which they have been certified by the faculty, together with the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto.
Dean Rothman will present the doctoral candidates from the School of Medicine.
Our first graduating class occurred 120 years ago. Those 14 men and 1 woman went on to change the world. And I have no doubt that the students who will receive their MD and PhD degrees today will achieve remarkable things, will ease human suffering, and produce scientific discoveries and medical breakthroughs that will offer new hope to people around the globe. Mr. President, I'm pleased to present to you candidates who have been certified by the faculty of the School of Medicine for their degrees of Doctor of Medicine and Doctor of Philosophy.
Thank you, Dr. Rothman. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and every one of you candidates who are here today candidates unable to be present the degrees Doctor of Medicine, Doctor of Philosophy from the School of Medicine, for which you have been certified by the faculty, together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Warmest congratulations. I'm still suffering from that lawyer thing, so I know you didn't. You did not say bad things at all. Okay, candidates.
For the Doctor of Medicine, Ishrat Ahmed,
Brian Chun Kim Go. Aliza Mo. Yanjun Xie.
For the Doctor of Philosophy,
Desiree Elaine Barrett.
Nathan Alexander Billmeyer.
Ao Dang,
Haydar Devaudi. Kwame Sanu Kutan.
Naranja Natarajan.
Kunal Salesh Parikh.
Farad Pasha Kanlu, Lingji Zhang,
Jingdong Song.
Meng Su,
Stephen Wang.
Dean Schleisinger of the GWC Whiting School of Engineering will present the doctoral candidates.
Mr. President, author and inventor Arthur C. Clarke noted that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so I am pleased to present to you the candidates who will work their magic to address the greatest challenges of our time, and who have been certified by the faculty of the GWC Whiting School of Engineering for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
Thank you, Dean Schlesinger. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and every one of you candidates and candidates unable to be present the degree Doctor of Philosophy from the GWC Whiting School of Engineering, for which you have been certified by the faculty, together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Again, warmest congratulations.
For the Doctor of Philosophy,
Guo Guo Chen, Chengyu Dong,
Nuala Wheeler Del Piccolo.
Nishikant Deshmukh, Xiaotong Fu,
Shu Guo,
Shuai Wang,
Farah Hook.
Paul Kessler Lambert,
Ran Lin. Yu Ling Lo. Jamal Lautier Molin.
Daniel James Shea,
Quentin Bernard Smith. Ling Ling Tao. Gregory Alexander Borzanger.
Yu Guangyang, Wang Yu Zhao,
Dean Wendland will now present the doctoral candidates from the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences.
Mr. President, our industrious doctoral students have been burning the midnight oil in libraries and laboratories, in archives and classrooms. They are the newly minted experts in their fields, from chemistry to political science, from anthropology to economics, from art history to biology, to name just a few. We of the faculty of the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences are so proud to send these amazing scholars out into the world to do great things, and so we present them to you for their degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and every one of you and candidates unable to be present the degree Doctor of Philosophy from the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences, for which you have been certified by the faculty, together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Warmest congratulations.
For the Doctor of Philosophy,
Jeremy Allen Anderson,
Ashley Dawn Futko Arico.
Cecilia Benalia,
Liang Hao,
Rui Cao, Blessing Dedum Dea, Meredith Ann Fraser,
Nicholas James Larita,
William Cook Miller,
Syed Alireza Mortazavi Karvani, Michael Andrew Peth,
Lauren Gabrielle Judy Reynolds, Mohammed Taher Safarzadeh,
Mark William Shurgan,
Julianne Spencer,
Eleanor Nicole Thornton, Bo Chun Wang,
Jiaxiong Yao,
So hold for a second. There's one to be read.
And that was Ali Afshar.
Although the two candidates have walked, Dean Bronstein will present the doctoral candidates from the Peabody Conservatory.
Wonder where you were. Ah, yeah, there you go. I was up. Mr. President, better late than never. But given that Peabody is also the soul of Johns Hopkins University, best not to fool with that also. I'm pleased to present to you our outstanding candidates who have been certified by the faculty of the Peabody Conservatory for their degree of Doctor of Musical Arts.
Thank you, Dean Bronstein. And I'm really pleased to actually confer what I already conferred a few moments ago. And so to say, just to make it all official, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and one of you who are already up here and those unable to be present, the degree Doctor of Musical Arts from the great Peabody Conservatory, for which you have been certified by the faculty, together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Warmest congratulations.
We will now present master's degrees, graduate certificates, graduate performance diplomas, and certificates of advanced graduate study for the conferral of their degrees. All of the degrees being conferred today are listed in the commencement program. As the university's chief academic officer, it's my privilege to present these candidates on behalf of the deans of their respective schools. Would the master's, bachelor's, and certificate candidates from Carey Business School, master's, bachelor's, and certificate candidates from the School of Education, graduate performance diplomas and master's candidates from the Peabody Conservatory, master's and certificate candidates from the School of Nursing, the Bloomberg School of Public Health, the Paul Nitze School of Advanced International Studies, the School of Medicine, master's and certificate candidates from the GWC Whiting School of Engineering, and the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences, please rise at your seats. Please stand. Mr. President, I'm pleased to present to you candidates who have been certified by the faculty of the Johns Hopkins University for their degrees.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and every one of you and candidates unable to be present the master's degrees, graduate certificates, graduate performance diplomas, certificates of advanced study, or bachelor degrees for which you've been certified by the faculties, together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Let's give these folks a really warm round of applause as we commend their graduates on these accomplishments.
The deans will now present candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Music, and Bachelor of Science. We ask the candidates to come forward without delay. Dean Bronstein will present the bachelor candidates from the Peabody Conservatory.
For the Bachelor of Music,
Najat Abu Hadi.
Niall Casey, Shane Coughlin,
Okay, here we are again.
Don't take this personally.
I understand. Mr. President, I am pleased to present to you the technically polished, musically stunning, and brilliant, truly brilliant candidates who have been certified by the faculty of the Peabody Conservatory for their degree, Bachelor of Music.
Thank you, Dean Bronstein. Let me just give you a little bit of context. We've got this newfangled electronic reading system that's supposed to make the pronunciation of our graduates' names that much better. I think sometimes, like those of you saw 2001, our computers kind of take on its life of its own, but we're just going to slow this down and get this right. This is just too important a moment. So with that, let me say once more, I just make one more plug for Nicola Willoughby, our final bachelor's candidate this afternoon. But also want to make clear, Dean Bronstein, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and every one of you and candidates unable to be present the degree Bachelor of Music from the Peabody Conservatory, for which you have been certified by the faculty, together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Warmest congratulations.
Luna Decker.
Catherine Ashley Estes,
Garrett J. Hale. Elizabeth Kekison.
Joo-hyung Kim, Andrew Daeun Kwan, Claudia Johanna Malchow, Kevin Salamowitz,
Dean Schleisinger will present bachelor candidates from the GWC Whiting School of Engineering.
Mr. President, I am pleased to present to you students who are so dedicated and who work so diligently that for them, 6 a.m. is not an early start to a new day, rather it is a late end to the previous day. And I am pleased to present to you candidates who have been certified by the faculty of the GWC Whiting School of Engineering for the degrees of Bachelor of Science in an Engineering Discipline, Bachelor of Arts in an Engineering Discipline, and Bachelor of Arts.
I'm truly, truly thrilled to say that by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and every one of you and candidates unable to be present the degrees Bachelor of Science in an Engineering Discipline, Bachelor of Arts in an Engineering Discipline, and Bachelor of Arts from the GWC Whiting School of Engineering, for which you have been certified by the faculty, together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Warmest congratulations.
I will now announce the names of the engineering candidates and ask that they come forward when called, beginning with our on-stage candidates. For the Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Engineering, Syed Shahdam Hussain. For the Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Statistics, Mary Adelaide Morfitt. For the Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Engineering, Eric Xiaoqiao Chan.
For the Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Statistics, Rithika Atraker.
Arvin Arikatla. Megumi Christie Chen. Caitlin Caroline DeBakey. Ali Haidar Dellin.
Hannah Foltz.
Lauren Elizabeth Francati.
Alexandra Rose Gotlin.
Julian Joseph Gould.
Andrea Henry. Anthony Karahalios.
Ryan Neeland Lake.
Thon Lei.
Yi Chao Lee.
Thomas Lin.
Rong Liu.
Sasmira Mata.
Nicholas Liu McCormick. Bradley William Monday. Michael Francis O'Connor. Ji-young Park.
Anjani Prakash Patel.
Alexander Anthony Peterson.
Gianmarco Renzi.
Lucas Carl Seebacher. Natasha Sidhu. James Henry Stroud.
Alan Toroella.
Shane Matthew Troutwine. Eric Z. Yang.
Jung-hee Yang. For the Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Engineering,
Linga Adidharma.
Ju Young An.
Clayton Edward Andrews IV.
David Alexander Angeles.
Saranga Aurora.
Priya Arunchalam.
Aditya Banerjee.
Alexandra Jean Burgess.
Ron Boger.
Emily Borst.
Eric W. Bridgeford.
Jacqueline Alexis Burke.
Karina Alessandra Castaño Munoz.
Larissa Yuet Chan.
Richard J. Chen.
Stephen Xiang Chen.
Kyung A. Cho.
Burahum Chidamralu.
Alicia N. Coronado.
Rajiv Deshpande.
Sure.
Miguel Souza Diaz. Parker Bissell Dubé.
Matthew Dysart.
Samuel Abbott Eberline.
Sophia Elizabeth Espinoza.
Jordan Ewalt.
Candice Noel Guard.
Shohini Ghosh,
Rebecca Michelle Glowinski.
Michael Good,
Kush Gupta.
Joe Bahij Hakim,
Stephanie Marie Herrera.
Catherine Hochberg,
John David Hochstein. Annie Chen Ho.
Kendrick Haugen,
Yixin Hu.
Kevin Huang, Nikhil Krishna Jois, David Youngjin Kim,
Do Hoon Kim.
Noel Lin,
Richard Leo.
Andrew Liu,
Adarsha Prakash Mala.
Andrew Wang Mao,
Jonathan P. Masterson.
Alex John Matthews,
Christopher J. Misek.
Rebecca Miller,
Clara Ashley Molineros.
Akash Mampara, Alyssa Caitlin Morgan,
Haley Morgan Rodriguez.
Matthew Thomas Munoz,
Demetrius George Nikotopoulos.
Paola Donice Noriega,
Jinwoo Oh.
Lucy O, Siavash Parkade,
Vishnu Prasath.
Akash Prem Kumar,
Joshua George Panus.
Arun Raghavan,
Sammy Ramadan.
Vignesh Ramchandran,
Chuan Ren.
Gabriella Marie Rodal,
Caitlin Marie Romanzik.
Quinn Nicole Soldich,
Aliana Renee Sanzi.
Ernest John Scalabrin,
Erica Lee Schwartz.
Andy Seabrook,
Julie Kristen Shade.
Michael Charles Schaffer.
James George Shamol.
Tony Sheng,
Richard Shi.
Yu Jung Shin,
William Schur.
Miguel Quintero Reese Subral,
Graham Steller.
Scott Charles Sterrett,
Bailey E. Surtees. Ellie Yang Tien.
Michelle Tremple,
Andrew Sean Tsai.
Jason Wong, Ernesto Wyson,
Thomas Yuan Yi.
Jeffrey Yu,
Sean Edward Young. Yifan Zhang.
Yu Zhang, for the Bachelor of Science in Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering.
Arturo Alemdar. Sadie Alperson.
Michelle Bari.
Jake Matthew Bieber.
Mitchell Boyer.
Abigail Marie Brown.
Elizabeth Chen. Deborah Chin.
Hyun Woo Cho. Sarah Cohen. Brendan Fu Dang.
Stephen Doria.
Joseph Vincent Federico.
Renesta Justine Geoffroy.
Robert Charles Gorman.
Andrew Gu.
Rachel Olivia Hong.
Kate Elizabeth Hobble.
Julian Hurtado.
Jaya Jasti.
Harrison Christopher Jung. William Jung.
Kristen Nicole Kaiser. Mitchell Keller.
Young Yoon Kim.
Jinmo Koo.
Aliyah Abdulaziz Lakhani.
Adib Laskar.
Edwin David Levi.
Christopher Chuan Nam Lee.
Paul Boone Lewis.
Shuyang Lee.
Wilhelm E. Liano.
Johan Lowe.
Kristen Marie Manto.
Shannon Martello. Joshua Eric McCurry.
Maloney D. Mehta.
Shauna Lika Anthony Melucci.
Adam Luis Mendez.
Arnaldo Mercado Perez.
John Cameron Minio.
Madeline Anmei Mueller. Jose Ortiz.
Jakey Papo. Deepan Patel.
Kevin Patrick Fow.
Alexander Victor Pacera. Jesse Amos Poor.
Michael Porter.
Sanjana Prasad. Rebecca Rivera Rodriguez.
Gabriella Catherine Russo.
Brian Kang Ryu.
Daniel Shade.
Christina Lisette Sierra. Ji Yun Sun.
Henry Sokol. Claire Emily Parker.
Sydney Lee Solomon.
Amanda Marie Sporer.
Jennifer Sun.
Juchung Tang. Vitor Tang.
Kevin Timothy Trigani.
Fatima Yumanzer.
Sungnan Wong.
Jacob Stefan Yelsky. Dylan Christopher Zurjov. For the Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering, Michael St. John Bain.
Joseph Bernard Conlon.
Reagan Meredith Hensley.
Olawakimi Uguntanawa.
Matthew Daniel Paris.
Brian Edward Pon.
Brian C.
Evelyn Carolina Torres Alfaro.
Sarah Wesley. David Clive Williamson.
Avital Rachel Zenelman.
For the Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering, David Barbahen.
Anthony Jordan Best. Edmund James Connor. Brianna Nicole Johnson.
Bo Liu.
Vivek Joyce Netrakanti.
Jeffrey Thomas Yuen Sham. Yuanjin Vincent Yan.
Zheng Yang.
Yuanwei Zhao. For the Bachelor of Science in Computer Science,
Trevor Scott Aaron.
Samuel Beckley.
Rebecca Lee Bushko.
Eric Calder.
Caroline Marie Ceballos. Hyun Jun Cho.
Jun Hyuk Choi.
Tiffany Hue Chung.
Anish Amit Dalal.
Farhan Damani.
Edmund Duhaime.
Alexander Golston. Sauteris Goulimaris. Matthew Ige.
Megan Scholl Judge.
Channing Noel Kimball Brown.
Rachel Kinney.
Kathleen Kuswaro.
Kwang Bin Lee.
Shuchen Ma. Daniel John Mallon. David Carl Miller.
Ian Kumar Mukherjee.
Diana L. Ning. Thomas Wade Pavarini.
Noah Pressler.
Augusto Ramirez.
Gavi Rawson.
Thomas Blake Reinhardt.
Christian Rio Tutar.
Matthew Shea Richard.
Corbin Rossett.
Paige Dion Yapakon Senyal.
Mindy Lou Sito. Andrew Shao.
Glenn Roland Smith.
Akshay Srivatsan,
Alec Tabachnik,
Sterling Vidkov,
Jillian Lauren Wolf,
Grady Shao,
Gina L. Yee,
Maxwell Yo,
Andrew Zhu,
for the Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, Arun Chakravarti,
Sebastian Philip Chen, Nicholas Jacob Duncan,
Darren Quincy Forbes, Sealbin Han,
Zhang Yun Ji,
Daniel Johnson,
Eric Michael Kaufman,
Michael Neil Miller.
Samuel Edward Ng,
Justin Bennett Pocatello,
Calvin Kiefer Pollard,
Yixiao Chu,
Andrew Decker Rausch,
Akil Ashok Vasvani,
Samantha Yu Wong,
Howard Shai,
Yei Yoon,
for the Bachelor of Science in Engineering Mechanics, David Ramon Dominguez,
Jorge Luis Rivera,
Zachary Robbins, for the Bachelor of Science in Environmental Engineering,
Christina Y. Cho,
Jiwan Choi,
Nicole Cohen,
Ziwei He,
Jiang J. Kim,
Gabriel Alessandra Mantegna,
Laura Francis Marlowe,
Carolyn Neves,
Megan Sarah Perez,
Kiana Latrice Rogers,
Alyssa Susanna Suklal,
Jessica Bailey Zients, for the Bachelor of Science in Materials Science and Engineering,
Michelangelo Andrew Fischera IV,
Jaehyung Han,
Brennan Eric Lee,
Shin-Jae Lee, Sijia Lee,
Michael C. Mariner,
Shirley Ng,
Ukrit Rojanasana,
Michael Ruiz,
Brandon Joseph Shannon,
Steven Sosa,
Michael Andrew Tershakovic,
for the Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, Supreme Abbas,
Jung Hyun,
Clara Lindley Aranguren,
Stefan John Arnold,
Andrew Rosenberg Backer,
Matthew Scott Bailey, Elijah Anthony Blake Baum. Sumukh Sudarkar Bharadwaj.
Veronica Grace Boswell. Zachary Michael Bradle.
Daniel Oded Bregman.
Austin James Bridges. Arturo Alberto Brito.
Mark Stephen Bazzelli.
Amanda Rose Canizin.
Ashley Rose Canizin.
Ronan Harl Carrero Ortiz.
Jimmy Jacob Yi Chang Chen.
Caitlin Elena Clancy.
Daniel Sidney Demner.
Sophia Alexandra Diaz.
Cora Ann Dimig.
Jalen Doherty.
Samuel Adams Einhorn.
Baxter Rhodes Eldridge.
Joshua Michael Gilbert.
Anna Kira Goodrich.
Nathan Vincent Green.
Emily Hadley.
Evan Ezekiel Holder.
Matthew Johnson.
Susanna Elaine Kellogg.
Hayin Kim.
Glenn Leland Knight.
Erez Krimsky.
Alejandra John Renee Laloum.
Elise Nicole Lance.
Kevin Michael LeBlanc.
Emily Christine Mancuso.
Elizabeth Marie Mark.
Danielle Riley Matuziak.
Miles Samuel McKee. Blaine Stephen Miller. Nicholas Tyler Morton.
Mary Teresa Nahill. Yadel C. Okori.
Samuel Taylor Palais.
Joseph William Piney. Andrew Phipps.
Connor Patrick Reynolds.
Patrick Corbin Rose.
Walter Sane.
Oludunsen Joshua Samuel Ojo.
Laura Scavo.
Camden William Jacinto Schroeder.
Oh, here's the money necklace.
Oh, yes.
Ryan Brett Seelig. Jeremy Tsao.
The shark.
Nicholas Russell Alm.
Emerson Joseph Summy Walsh.
Nastasia Elizabeth Winey.
Jonathan Yee.
Sebastian Alexander Ioannis.
For the Bachelor of Arts in General Engineering.
Oh, yes. BAs.
Alexandra Mercedes Lo-Collado.
Adam Joseph Ellenbogen.
For the Bachelor of Arts in Applied Mathematics and Statistics.
Alexander Alm Pandya.
Anga Babu.
Carissa Mary Zukowski.
For the Bachelor of Arts in Biomedical Engineering. Lindsay Kriz.
You sat too fast. Okay, okay. You misunderstood. Yeah, it's still
For the Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science.
You're still engineer? Yep.
Jennifer Nicole Wagner.
All right. Stop.
Each of you is a vibrant and vital part of our university community. Today, as we celebrate your achievements, we also remember those who sadly are not with us. Your classmate, Yang Kai, a fellow member of the Krieger School, exemplified the spirit of this university, as do you. May your common devotion to intellectual inquiry and devotion to serving others help guide us as we work to create a safer, more humane world for all.
Dean Wendland will present the bachelor candidates from the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences.
The Krieger School of Arts and Sciences is sending its graduates out into a challenging world. Am I worried about whether they will succeed? Not at all. And you know why? Because during their time here, our students have learned how to be comfortable with all facets of the entire space-time continuum. From the tiniest atoms and molecules to the vast expanses of space, from rare original manuscripts and literature to complex economic models, from ancient history to current trends in politics, our students leave Hopkins well-rounded and ready for anything. And right now, I think they're ready to graduate. So, Mr. President, I am pleased to present to you candidates who have been certified by the faculty of the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences for their degrees of Bachelor of Science in an Arts or Science discipline and Bachelor of Arts.
So, for the last time today, we'll do it slowly to enjoy this. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Johns Hopkins University, I confer upon each and every one of you and candidates unable to be present the degrees of Bachelor of Science in an Arts or Science discipline and Bachelor of Arts from the Zanville Krieger School of Arts and Sciences, for which you have been certified by the faculty together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. On behalf of all of us, warmest congratulations.
We ask the recipients of the degrees just conferred to please come forward when your name is called. After we have recognized the graduates who are seated on stage, names will be called in alphabetical order by degree, then major.
Will the candidates on stage please come forward when called? For the degree Bachelor of Science, majoring in molecular and cellular biology, Obialua Oluwafunmilo Olukorede. For the degree Bachelor of Arts, majoring in psychology, Demi Alfonso. Majoring in political science, Rachel Hannah Mandel Becker. Majoring in history, Jonathan Raphael Brown. Majoring in public health studies, Matthew Alexander Brown. Majoring in economics, Jeremy Michelle Joseph Frankel. Majoring in public health studies, Charlotte Nell Green. Majoring in political studies, Samuel Lewis Sands. Majoring in public health studies, Maria Lin Wang.
For the Bachelor of Science in Molecular and Cellular Biology, Gregory Meyer Adaf.
Benito Alvarez.
Moluku Adesu Ariga.
Victoria Burgess.
Rebecca May Black.
Samuel Coolett Black.
Ann Dunham Cavers.
Damon Boulent Jalon.
Shirley Chan.
Drishti Chawla.
Selena Raquel Cisneros.
Shannon Riley Cosgrove.
Tejas Dharmaraj. Aviana Nicole Duca.
Katerina Noel Estep.
Elizabeth Fasas.
Nicholas Anthony Frisco.
Bianca Galasso.
Christian Garcia Hernandez.
Andrew John Greenhalgh.
Ivan Guan.
Michael Thomas Guo. Anna Elise Hosche Klunder.
Laura Jane Hinch.
Rohit Sitaram Iyer. Alicia Simone Cardian.
Joshua Bradley Katz.
Alyssa Sophia Khan.
Andy Jeong Kim.
Daniel Myung Kim.
Nancy Kim.
Timothy Matthias William Kistner.
John Unjin Kwan. Alexander Raji Lau.
Irene Jung Ah Lee.
Olivia Leung. Julie Liu.
Su Che Liu. Billy Liu.
Melanie Davis Lucart.
Sybil Dominica Metabolemy.
Nikita Mcta.
Julia Margaret Moyet.
David Nicholas Neal. Vanessa Fong.
Caroline Page Polito.
Harini Ramesh.
Hunter Lee Risher.
Eric Henry Sass.
Pooja Sahani.
Rajav Shah.
Sumukh Shetty.
Prakar Singhal.
Susanna Soto.
Monique Soraya Sterling.
Maria Rose Tahara.
J. Nithish Thakur.
Darius Andrew Thompson.
Tiffany Tran.
Joby Sai.
Annette Wang.
Caleb Nathaniel Warren.
Alyssa Nicole Wenzel.
Nicholas Michael Wilkerson.
Tiffany Wu.
Ashley Hin Tung Yoon. Amber Cheng Zhang. For the Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience,
Omer Akmal.
Akshay Alagada.
Peter Adam Angeli. Simon Bone.
Thomas Peter Butcher.
Courtney Monet Brown.
Gabrielle Casella.
Keenan Richard Caswell.
Alejandro Chara.
Kaylee Jin Chen.
Lindsay Ann Chu. Lucinda Chu.
Smile, Anna.
Anna Christina Clements.
Chantal Clough.
Christina Rose Del Prete.
Maria Francesca DiCarlo.
Tiffany Alyssa Eats.
Jordan Alum.
Daniel Esteban Esquivel.
Leah Nazadiro Evans.
Patrick Joseph Flynn.
Preston G.
Alexandra Lowry Gordon.
Melissa Kim Greenberger.
Kania Yasmin Hardy.
Girija Hari Prasad.
Sierra Hasinen.
Maria Paula Hasban.
Erin Nicole Hedgelin.
Evelyn Kyan Ho.
Fumilio Dorothy Iriamo.
Amanda Kaylin John.
Pankuri Jha.
Darren Gregory Johnson.
Felicia Juarez.
Benjamin Thomas Kale.
Chinenea Uma Uzo Kalu.
James Amen Keeler.
Dong Hyun Kim.
Serena Klein. Deanna Lee.
Justin Gabriel Lee.
Rachel Ada Lee.
Chen Hao Lee. Ketty Liang.
Belle Liang. Brian Jonathan Lin.
Kristen Lineback. Charlton Long.
Emily Elizabeth Lubin.
Diego Derek Louis.
Nicholas Magano.
Emily Margaret Marley.
Aisa Mercedes Marino McGee.
Isabel Lancaster Nair. Cindy Nunez.
Chira Anthony Aboto.
Tariq Mohammed Omer.
Kareem Osman.
Daniel Andre Perez.
Alexandra Michelle Potts.
Tran H. Quach.
Sathi Kenyonas Amotasab.
Stephanie Sam Rapps.
India Hope Reese.
Jennifer Rios. Amanda Mary Sue Ping Chow.
Melissa Marie Staley.
Haley Janice Strasburger.
Ivana Sue. Michael Christian Sweat.
Sean Laxamana Thompson.
Andrea Kimberly Oy.
Margaret Susan Vanderloo.
Tina Lily Vaziri.
Taylor Nicole Virali.
Michelle Valerie Vergno.
Daniel Clark Villalobos. Joseph Michael Wardell.
Connor Michael Welch.
Haley Morgan Wendt. Ting Yu Wu.
Carolyn Shu.
Ju Jun Young. Brandy Elizabeth Youngson.
Yuchun Zhu.
For the Bachelor of Science in Physics,
Rodrigo Giovanni Aguilar.
Lauren Nicole Alderati, John Bradley Bowers,
Anna Carmen Carter,
George Justice Danforth,
Jacob Scott Dieter,
Neil McLean Fendley,
Matthew Lyons Griffin,
Magnus Chepso Halverson,
Richard Luke Kelson,
Tarina Conchati,
Maxwell Lee,
Facundo Jose Maron,
Christopher Bowers McBride,
Andre Novak,
Carolyn Ann Ortega,
Asa Jediah Stahl,
Lynn Catherine Stanwyck,
Biljana Tosolova,
for the Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology, Andrew William Blasco, Natalie Simone Christie,
Isis Soraya Lynn Dwyer,
Ezekiel Henry Goodman,
Jessica Brooke Kahan,
Evan Hyun Suk Kim,
Nadine Cronus,
Alyssa Eugenia Martinet,
Adriana Madeline Sensenbrenner,
for the Bachelor of Arts in Archaeology, Helena Marie Arose,
Adrian Alana Kramer,
Samantha Anne-Marie Lindgren,
Anna Seufer,
for the Bachelor of Arts in Behavioral Biology, Anne-Marie Armstrong,
Lainey Gray Buckowitz, Jamie Lisa Chan, John Casper Curtin,
Carolyn Marie Duman,
Gracie Holy Hargrove,
Brendan J. Uk Hong,
Joshua William Hughes,
Dan Ju,
Minjung Minnie Kim,
Jody Marilyn Law,
Brett Lee Pinsker,
Jessica Nicole Silva,
Olivia Comerford Sullivan,
for the Bachelor of Arts in Biology, Garrett Sean Anderson,
Jessica Bauer,
Julia Bindman.
Jack Campbell,
Yeah, it's an easy one.
Yi Chen,
Alexandra Carolyn Clay,
Kevin Jude Cherry, Bitsy Hagos, Beverly Hu,
That's a hard one.
Colin Timothy Huang,
Adrian Marie Johnson,
Oh, need the right one.
Martha Melsom,
Nabil Ilyas Saif.
Elizabeth Rose Weniker,
Joshua Aaron Wetzel,
Matthew Kirkpatrick Williams, for the Bachelor of Arts in Biophysics,
Kirk Richard Butler,
Athena Chen,
Aaron Philip Chum,
Vikas Dagobati, Julin Rachel Justin,
Patrick Marcellus Keating.
Billy Insup Kim,
John Michael Korleski,
Diana Gloria Lee,
Rodrigo Anwado Neira,
Zachary William Smith,
Camilla Marie Villasante,
Samuel Willard Workman,
Will Shaw,
Shohei Sean Yamakawa,
Diego Adolfo Zigara,
for the Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry, Hee Jun Bae,
Sierra Jordan Chadwick,
Juan Chamorro,
Harrison Luis Charwat,
Sun Ho Jerome Chung,
Guillermo Contreras,
Philippe Badke Dandria,
Isabel Amber Engelberg,
George Hahn,
Andrew Wang,
Daniel Gabriel Jimenez,
Nilay Kumar,
Robert Paul Lesko,
Natalie Alexandria Lindau,
Jeremy McGale,
Rocio Olivia,
Feng Pei Barry Pang, Michael Anthony Quintero,
Adam Neil Reed,
Arun Sritharan,
Marissa Catherine Totten,
Sang Tran,
Zachary Alexander Zilber.
For the Bachelor of Arts in Classics, Annette Lynn Favetta.
Michelle Shu.
For the Bachelor of Arts in Cognitive Science, Victoria Vijaya Esola.
Jeremy Bokwitz.
Michael K. Bledsoe.
Harry Burke.
Virgil Kevin DeMario.
Alana DiSabatino.
Courtney Jean Finkbeiner.
Iwana Grosu.
Catherine Amanda Halpern.
Carly Marissa Hyman.
Vida Rose Lampietti.
Philip Hua Yu Lin.
Erna Elian Reinhardt. Patrick Thomas Skiba.
Christiana Marie Vargas.
Nana Efwa from Puma Wadi.
Tiana Aisha Warren.
For the Bachelor of Arts in Earth and Planetary Sciences, Julie Marie Chavari.
Robert Kent Stafford III.
For the Bachelor of Arts in East Asian Studies, David Allen Halsell.
Sunyeon Lee.
Arthur Lowe.
Amy Wee.
For the Bachelor of Arts in Economics, Daniel Harrison Albert. Matthew Owen Oren. Amanda Estelle Osti.
Alexander Thomas Bartzowskis.
Nathan Bick.
Jessica Lauren Billetter.
Madeline Ann Bowden.
Kyle Alexander Bonshi.
Kylie Rebecca Bongart.
Alexander Broholm.
Charles Angus Bushnell.
Daniel Eduardo Camus Alvera.
Eric Nicholas Alexander Campbell.
Nicholas Campbell.
Alvaro Clover Chachedo.
James Henry Robert Courteau.
John Ryan Crawley.
Benedict Titus Croak.
Ryan Curran.
Austin Winslow Davis. Riley Douglas DeSmit.
Red Ernesto DeSmith. Alexandra Jade Deal.
Quinn Logan Donaldson.
John Francis Dover Spike,
Eliana Rachel Drescher, Ariana Crystal Farahani,
Ryan Matthew Fite,
Nicholas Lester Fields,
Alexander Benjamin Fine,
Ellis John Flannery,
Dylan Richard Frankenfield,
Julian Michael Frost,
Rachel Elizabeth Furman,
David Edward Gary,
Thomas Gordon,
Brandon Richard Hafler,
Philip Taylor Harris,
Jonathan B. Hayden,
Alexandra Catherine Hirsch,
Molly Rose Hershick,
You do it.
Daniel Alden Huang,
That's an easy one.
Guilherme Hubner,
Jeremy Taylor Cass,
Oh, 7th inning switch.
Trevor Kelsch,
Spencer Kolick,
Samuel Cantor Kornblau,
Naya Kulkarni,
Vinitha Kumar,
Matthew Robert Ledwin,
Samuel Aaron Liebman, Alec William Mackey,
Ricardo Martinez,
Max Ezekiel McKee,
Alexander Stefan McLaughlin,
Gabriella Raquel Mizrahi Arnaud, Riku Nakamoto, Daisy Kim Gwen Lee,
Kathleen Deidre Nicholas,
Jonathan Oliveros,
Ryan Edward Orgalevitz,
Jose Carlos Otero,
Victoria Marie Piscapo,
Michael Christopher Pozo,
Philip Procus,
Denicio Roman,
Patrick Anthony Runger,
Siddharth Saw,
Garrett Ford Speck,
Austin James Spencer,
Austin Suter, John Patrick Toner,
David Stanley Tracy,
Gulnar Tully, Nicholas Druslis.
Gaurav Verma.
Ariana Mary Waitkevish.
William Wang.
Brandon Wong.
Oscar Andre Zapata.
Xu Zhan.
Nicholas Joseph Zito. For the Bachelor of Arts in English,
Amanda Marie Abel.
Jennifer Beek.
Sethley Martin Davis. Yasmin Zara Kaminsky.
Emily Rose Karcher.
Christine Y. Lee.
Madeline Laura Mitchell.
Juliana Marie Nador.
Elizabeth Anderson Norford.
Mary V. Reardon.
Phoebe Catherine Hart Roque.
Sanshriti Tripathi.
Chelsea Zhou. For the Bachelor of Arts in Film and Media Studies,
Olivia Aslaxon Aristizabal.
Garrett Peter Cleary.
John Lawrence Cullinane IV.
Julia Frances Gunnison.
Rachel Lorraine Jandak.
Shakan Martin Berkowitz.
Genevieve Ott.
Robert Anthony Picciano. Xiao Xia. For the Bachelor of Arts in French, Elizabeth Ann Ford.
Remy Aria Kessler.
Catherine Elizabeth Rubari. For the Bachelor of Arts in Global Environmental Change and Sustainability,
Dylan Alvarez.
Matthew John B.
Christiane Marguerite Bathrash.
William Tragesser Cameron.
Christian Kaon.
Justin Michael Decker.
Hannah Amy Farkas.
Tess Eileen Fields.
Sunny Kim.
Sarah Christine Manning.
Hannah Page Melton.
Soha Yusuf Nasir. Elizabeth O'Connor Stillman. For the Bachelor of Arts in History,
Caitlin Marie Barrett.
Ryan James Carroll.
Gianna Marie Crosby,
Juan Jason Sway,
Carolyn Margaret Federico,
Rebecca Rose Friedman,
Madison Joan Goodrow,
Madeline Faith Goodman,
Andrew Robert Johnson,
Maura Nadine Cantor,
Grace Moonyoung Kim, Christina Georgia Caracas,
William Krause,
James Tyler Woodall,
So thank you so much for your patience. We're kind of nearing the sort of two-thirds point of the ceremony, and you're all still with us, which is wonderful. But there's a late-breaking innovation here that I just want to share with you. Of the group that's up here of student leaders, they've been tremendous leaders for the last several years at Hopkins, and we're really proud to have them on the stage. But we're going to ask them to do one last thing before we release them from the leadership positions, and that is to lead us all in a seventh inning stretch. And so with that, I ask our student leaders to come forward. I don't know what you're going to do, but I know you'll do it well. And could I also ask the student who misplaced his lei on me earlier, if you want to come up and reclaim it, now would be a good time. Over to our student leaders. I have no idea. Thank you to our leaders. And now, back to commencement.
For the Bachelor of Arts in History of Art, Elise Nicole Anderson,
Sarah Helen Braver,
Kristen Julia Burke, Savannah Jewel DeMontesquieu,
Elizabeth Ashford Glass, Alexa Rangecroft,
Olivia Eleanor Rodriguez,
G. Mary So,
Yu Xiao, for the Bachelor of Arts in History of Science, Medicine, and Technology,
Elizabeth Marie Doherty,
for the Bachelor of Arts in International Studies, Emmeline Abreu, Rebecca J. Anderson.
Abigail Christina Anir, Soye Bay,
Neil Patrick Billig.
Danielle Sarah Bluestein,
Brian Linforth Carey.
Aaron Judah Carey,
Katie Chang,
Tiffany Chen. Min Ju Choi. Lorenzo Chico.
Pauline Isabella Cronin, Lucy Inmaculada Delgado,
Amanda Edwards.
Dylan Etzel,
Jacqueline Fedida.
Flora Fay.
Elliot Jeffrey Frumkin, Cole David Genrich, Rosellen Louise Cuneo Grant,
Gideon Ethan Gross.
Clementine Sandrin Patricia Gelton,
Monica Guo.
Ian Michael Gustafson,
Avi Haas,
Amanda Marie Hernandez, Megan Mia Huynh,
Andrew Valadez Ingersoll.
Laura Mechtilt Johns,
Danny Gian.
Eaton Gia,
Alexandra Wilson Jordan.
Rachel Lotz Kassler,
Christina Syme Kilgariff.
Hyunjin Kim,
Sihi Sherry Kim. Hye Yun Kim.
Madeline Esme King. Christina Uram Ko.
Kevin Kwok,
Justin David Landis.
Eleanor Margaret Layfield,
William John Baird Leyland.
Dong Min Lee,
Tyler Shepard Lee.
Wei Chin Crystal Lee,
Naomi Elizabeth Leeds.
Guoktong Lee,
Nicholas Robert Liguori.
Haley Liu,
Jonathan Alexander Lowenberg.
Jeffrey Allen McKenzie,
Maloney Madan,
Oscar Martinez Yang,
Warner Preston Mason Jr.,
Carolyn Hart McCown,
Catherine Mary McEnany,
Laura Kroger Mears, Victoria Danielle Michaels,
Mia Munkovic,
Jane Frances Morris,
William Leonard Murphy,
Yulim Nam, Elise Lenore Oliver,
Sung Jae Park,
Sungwoo Park,
Corey Robert Payne,
Philip Eric Rhyme,
Selena Rodriguez,
Michael Louis Rosen,
Alex Sadler,
John Aaron Schwartz,
Dylan Francis Raphael Simon Shamana,
Grace Catherine Scott,
Perry Searles,
Campbell David Sebastian, Saraswati Pranav Shah,
Jacqueline Grace Piper Shurin, John Alexander Stanton,
John Costa Stoller,
Sakshi Vishal Suri,
Apricot Sun Tang,
Deanna Lenora Tappert,
Sophie Pearl Tolkoff,
Matthew Francis Ullman,
Bradley Treeman Viles, Alexander Patricelli Weissman, Meng Yun Yang,
Mario Zampa Leona,
Wanda Wu Zhan,
Bo-Ray Zhang,
for the Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics,
William K. Burnish,
David Matthew Chan,
Michael Ronald Korn,
Eve Lepkowski,
Pauline Piercy, for the Bachelor of Arts in Medicine, Science, and the Humanities,
Ashta Berry,
Linnell Adriana Martinez, for the Bachelor of Arts in Natural Sciences area,
Justin Drew Karp,
Christopher Dean Catchus,
Sasha Mirage,
Ashley Chie, For the Bachelor of Arts in Near Eastern Studies,
Dane L. Clark.
Christina Dolores Garrido,
Allison Nicole McCoskey.
for the Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy,
Rachel Elise Cook.
Dante Clemente, Daniel Friedman,
Anna Cancanella,
Theodore Van Kupfer, William Wisner Carlson,
Joan Ye.
for the Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, Tammuz Leah Avivi,
Maxwell Henry Balka. Christopher Beckman.
Melissa Allison Benaroff,
Anna Juliet Benham. Brandon Jeffrey Block.
Charlotte Suha Butash,
Joseph William Carlini. Carolyn Kelly Cochran.
Rachel Louise Dema,
Noah Dion.
Wilkins Gray Dismuke, Dana Eve Ettinger,
Sophia Fugia.
Matthew Frazier,
Mira Hussein Haqqani.
Liam Mori Haviv,
Andres Hernandez. Kitshon Tommy Coe. Akram Leitimi.
McHenry Houghton Lee,
Suna Lee.
Olivia Nicole Lindenberg, Curran Clee McSwiggan,
Justin Benjamin Neal.
Kevin John O'Toole,
Cody Jacob Radzewick.
Ashley Samlute, Rebecca Susan Van Voorthies,
Judy Wang.
Zelpha Marie Williams,
Travis Colton Wood.
for the Bachelor of Arts in Psychology,
Sarah Anna Louie.
Ji Soo Bae,
Tiffany Chan.
Elizabeth Ann Couch, Annie Georgine Elander, Jared Meyer Foreman,
Jennifer Frederick.
Dana Mary Ellen Gillette.
Madeline Elizabeth Goodwin.
Jacqueline Hernandez.
Elena Louise Hirsch.
Alexia Saline Irene Huggins.
Alexander Jordan.
Nia Josiah.
Pio Kim.
Veronica Kim.
Margaret Joan Lederer.
Ashley Ji Yun Lee.
Sunny O.
Daniel Park.
Lena Elizabeth Rebays. Haley Bree Schweitzer.
Sarah Cito.
Nisha Shah. Janae Ashley Smith.
Kristen Mary Spiegel. Kristen Marie Wallach. Heather Catherine Youngman.
For the Bachelor of Arts in Public Health Studies, Devika Agrawal.
Salma Ahmed. Etta Akpek.
Chase Carrington Alston. Chance Allen Anderson.
Zoe Sidell Anderson. Elena Adreo.
Zoe Marcia Adebeck.
Nadeem Bundeli.
William Cahill Bellamy.
Anna Romero. Anna Benguchea Romero.
Olivia Page Bursey.
Robert Paul Besh.
Gary Ganga Butnagar.
Caroline Rose Bradford. Victoria Felicia Adelaide Buckman.
Alexandra Donchak Capellini.
Chelsea Allison Chen. Kevin Chen.
Nancy Chen. Mary Chong.
Lonnie Chung.
Carlos Antonio Concepcion.
Catherine Marianne Couch.
Giovanni Crignati.
Molly Ann Cueva Debkowski.
David Cui.
Jacob Kane Dockman.
Janina Ezra Habla David.
John Michael DeBella,
Zoe Odemko.
Samia Fatima Diawara,
Camilla S. Dolman. Kieran Christopher Eisler.
Isabel Louise Evans,
Ashley Uzomaka Enzima.
Yoshine Christine Fay,
Neville Christina Fernandez.
Peter U. Fisher,
Tara Ann Fitzgerald.
Claudia Louisa Flister,
Alan Flores.
Grace Cryle Foster,
Julie Christine Fountain.
Danielle Taylor Franco,
Laura Sivalup Gaffney.
Lalita Surya Ganti,
Audrey Marissa Nyberg Garman.
Jonathan David Germano,
Sydney Marielle Gertzog.
Abigail Joan Grant, Nathaniel Abraham Green,
Bengujan Gunan.
Anthony Jun Hyung Ha.
Bridget O'Hara Hampton,
So it turns out, if you send 4 kids to Johns Hopkins, you get to be up on the stage. So let's give it up for the Hamptons. Any more? No. Congratulations.
Elizabeth May Reese Hawks,
Natalie Marie Hernandez.
Sarah Elizabeth Hill,
Christopher Hines.
Jessica Amber Hoar,
Elizabeth Minali Hubbins.
Ruth Wong,
Muhammad Kanan Hudhud.
Emily Scott Inglis,
Jane Baruch Jeffrey.
Winston Wenteo Jin,
Corey Matthew Johnson.
Erica Amanda Jones. Eric Junyoung Kang.
Sarah Catherine Kang. Anjani Darshan Kapadia.
Daniel Edward Keeler.
Michelle Wangoi Kahara. Hyunjong Kim.
Isabel Aaron Kim.
Sang Kim.
Atsumi Kimura.
Riona Kimura.
Kaylin Nicole Coe.
Blake Oswell Oduser.
Joy Wan San Lee.
Hugh Hee Lee. Hannah Morgan Lemansky.
Katerina Giselle Lescouflair.
Shirley Lee.
Yusen Lin.
Elizabeth Yang Liu.
Julia Rose Logan.
Orlando Lopez Fernandez.
Vania Ludman.
April Lugo.
Gina Ma.
Alexis Mafucci. Jonathan Carlos Martinez.
Sophia Carolina Medina Pardo.
Thomas Cavanaugh Mee.
Nikita Mehta.
Daniela Maria Menendez.
Matthew Vincent Marola.
Barbara Ann Merriman. Elizabeth Agnes Moriarty.
George K. Mawinya.
Sachi Nunjia.
Roxana Danal Noakes. Azina Obana.
Tiffany Nzinwa Onyejiaka.
Victor Osio.
Renus Osman.
Ashley Park.
Chan Jun Steve Park.
Wendy Piedra.
Jefferson Riera.
Erica Rivera.
Elise Naomi Rodriguez.
Andrew James Rosenblum.
Brianna Grace Russo.
Alexandra Petronella Clara Sachin.
Lily Ann Schmidt.
Raquel Surya.
Hamad Rafet Shad.
Elizabeth Shaya.
Galen Shi,
Lavunya Singh,
Marcus Darrell Spearman,
Jonathan Tai,
Selena Rodriguez,
No, then don't.
Matthew J. Tam,
Derek Teng,
Sarania Thamaraja,
Nea Reddy Thumala,
Anne-Marie Brenda Christabel Sai, Gershon Tuteja,
Shri Varma,
Arani Villa Gasgomez,
Madeline Maureen Waldrum,
Angela Q. Wang, Maggie Mae Weiss,
Alyssa Shin Wei Chiang, Danae Yamani,
Hanzi Zhang,
Scott Jung,
Danielle Grace Ziegelstein,
Clay Zhou,
Luke Zito,
We're waiting for you to join them.
for the Bachelor of Arts in Romance Languages,
Sarah Marie Jones,
Clarissa Trabanino,
Emily Alden Weinberg,
for the Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, Chinar Ark,
Katia Monet Forbes,
Dikshant Maland,
John Christopher McLaughlin,
Elena Alexandra Movshevitz,
Matthew Anthony Nicola,
Natalie Summers Soliazzi, for the Bachelor of Arts in Spanish,
Nicolo Orbi Daustu, Kitsen Lamb,
for the Bachelor of Arts in Writing Seminars, Mehul Agarwal,
Lauren Sarah Altus,
Madison Marie Archard.
Emily Catherine Brown.
Soo-Yun Chin.
Helena Harim Chung.
Allison Haynes Comado.
Hannah Weil Danziger.
Daniel Anthony de Simone.
Megan Page First.
Amy Michelle Garcia.
Maggie Carolyn Gill.
Maxwell Leonard Gontarek.
Jordan Alexandra Greenblatt.
Audrey Stratton Holt.
Lynn Yia.
Megan Elizabeth Kalia. Siegel Rebecca Landau.
Ruth Marie Narn Landry.
Isis Lo Pui Sun.
Nina Siebel Lerner.
Hannah Lin.
Alana Malkin.
Sophie Mancini.
Megan Collins McGrath.
Adam McCann.
Jessica N. Moog. Anastasia Marie Moskowski.
Danielle Ann Nosona.
Trevor Hannah Obaird.
Debbie O.
Faith Maya Agda Nguzi.
Yaji Park.
Julia Madeline Poon.
Benjamin Zachariah Pierce.
Caroline Grace Preziosi. John Paul Edward Reed.
Shannon Kane Romig.
Allison Claire Schingel.
Alexis Camille Sears.
Aisha Shibley.
Olivia Meyer Shoemaker.
Jesse Schumann.
John Brendan Sweeney. Mary Turner. Olivia Marin Weiss. Elena G. Whitesell.
Okay, that's the last one. Yep, I think so. I think so. Last one? Yep.
Nicola Rose Willoughby.
Nikolai told you there was no doubt they'd all be here for you. Once again, for the class of 2017. Okay, we're almost. We're almost at the end of these commencement ceremonies. We've applauded our graduates and their families and our trustees, alumni, honored degree recipients, but I want to make sure that we acknowledge the peerless contributions of one more group without whom we truly could not be here today, and that, of course, is our wonderful faculty. Under the guidance of these teachers and mentors, our students have thrived, turning out their best work, often well more than they realized they could accomplish. Could the members of our faculty who are here with us please stand so we can acknowledge your great contribution. I also want to thank and congratulate the winningest coach of our football team, Jim Margraf. That was a nice moment, Jim. Congratulations. I want to thank our deans, administrators and staff, without whom these proud graduates would have not arrived at this moment. And of course, I want to recognize everyone, our staff, volunteers, those who work in security and with the arena who have made this ceremony possible. And of course, our great secretary of the Board of Trustees, Maureen Marsh. Maureen, please stand up. So we can, and Jill Williams, please. Where's Jill? Somewhere out there. So, to our graduates from across the divisions of our university, while this moment marks the end of your official tenure of Johns Hopkins students, it also, of course, signals the start of a new kind of learning, discovery, and engagement with our communities from Baltimore to Beijing and beyond. Once again, to our graduates, congratulations, good luck, and now let me turn the podium over to our Chief Marshal, Sunil Kumar, to conclude these proceedings. Again, all the best to the great class of 2017.
I have a few announcements. One of the School of Education students who walked across the stage did not get announced, so I want us all to congratulate Kafui Do. Graduates, please remain standing at your seats until the recession of the principals, officials, and members of the faculty is complete. You will then recess in order. Please follow the directions of your marshal. The audience is requested to remain standing at your seats until the recession of the principals, officials, members of the faculty, and the graduates is completed. Now please stand and join us in singing the new adaptation of the Johns Hopkins University Ode. The words can be found on page 17 of your program book.
Truth guide our university, and from all error keep us free. Let knowledge grow from more to more, and may our scholar spirit soar.
Thank you for joining us today. Congratulations to all our graduates and their families. The ceremony is now adjourned.
Thank you.